Hi, and welcome to College Planning Untangled, where we help families simplify the college planning process. I'm Kristin Clark, and I'm here with Bobby Hood. We work with teens every day to help them figure this whole thing out. And today we've got an interesting topic. Is it too stressful for teens to talk about careers? Bobby, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, even the topic stresses me out a little bit. I had a lot of trouble figuring out careers, when I was younger. So
I know, right? And it's one of those things that we say a lot of stuff, Bobby, as adults to kids that actually stresses them out a little bit more about trying to figure this out. Um, but here's what's interesting. On TikTok and some other social medias that I'm on, I get a lot of, I'll call it fired up
mhm.
adults, parents that say, why are you making these kids stressed out by making them talk about careers?
Oh man.
Yeah. And after a little while, I went, shoot, am I really doing that? Are we really stressing these kids out?
Yeah,
So,
that sounds a little backwards to me
well,
because, right? Uh
right.
sure, you can just let someone sit around and say, "Oh, you can decide that later." Right? But then what happens when they get to college and they they're having to pick a
And
major,
they're really stressed out.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I just said, you know what? You hear it enough. Let's just back up for a second. So I went out and I asked any
Yeah.
kid that I ran into, I was like, hey, talk to me a little bit about this. Does it stress you out to talk about careers? Like, is this just too difficult of a topic? And Bobby, I was going to say
Yeah.
not one kid said, oh my gosh, why are you asking me this question? They looked at me truthfully like I had three eyeballs and they're like, why would we not want to talk about this, Kristin? And I was like, that's what I needed to hear. So for them, they said, it's more stressful when we don't talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so this is interesting because it makes you wonder what the motivation is, where parents are saying, "Oh, don't stress the kids out." But like I know one thing which is like the way when we were younger, people talked to us about careers is maybe different from what you're talking about now because telling your kid, like so many of the people I grew up with, their parents said, you have to be a professional, you have to be a doctor or a lawyer or an architect or whatever, right? And now that's a stressful conversation about careers if you don't want to be one, right? I've talked many times about my friend who was in his third year of medical school and dropped out and now is a video game designer because he never wanted to do it, right? So that's stressful. But that's not talking about careers, is it?
I love that you brought this topic up because I was just having this conversation on my walk today with a lady that she saw online that somebody said, hey, my kid just isn't college material. That's really in her heart how she felt. And she said that on this stream, and it was on Nextdoor, I think, that people were like, oh, here's what he needs to do. Here's what he needs to do. Here's what he needs to do. And Bobby, every time that happens, I just die inside a little bit because I'm
Mhm.
like, these people have no idea who this kid is. They have no
Right.
idea what he's interested in, no idea what's going to motivate him, but everybody has this opinion. And I think that's why this becomes stressful because the kid's
Right.
going, you're telling me all this stuff and none of it sounds good.
Right. So telling a student what you think their career should be, that probably is too stressful to do and you shouldn't do, right?
Yeah. And not helpful.
Right.
Right now, I got to tell you though, when I'm working with my students and they say, "Yeah, my dad said I should be a da 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 da," and I was like, you know what, that goes under my category of none your business. But
Right.
I do back up a little bit, and I'm like, here's what you need to do when that happens. Tell whoever's telling you that, or ask them rather, why do you think that? Why do you think I'd be good at that? Okay, because
Right.
maybe they are seeing something in you that's interesting, but you can respectfully say, yeah, that's not even remotely something that I want to do, if that's how you're feeling.
Right.
But be respectful, and listen to what they're saying, but then you have to decide,
Mhm.
is that for me or not? Because nobody else can do this for you.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, there might be something there. Yeah. If they can answer the question, they have some ideas about your skills and talents that would lead well into that career. Well, first, that's good information for you to say, okay, well, they think I have this skill or talent, and you can make your own decision of whether you do or not. And then think about other careers that would still use that skill or talent. But also, I bet once in a while that might stump the parent when they just say, well, I mean, I did it. I think you'd be good at it, but there's no reason. There's nothing particular about you.
Well, Bobby, I can't tell you how many parents will say, yeah, my kid should be a lawyer. And I'm like, why? Well, they're good at debating. I'm like, that's their job. That's right now in life, that's their job, to push hard against you.
Yeah.
So don't think that they're going to be a great lawyer because they know how to manipulate you.
Yes, and being good at debating has nothing to do with being an attorney either.
Right, which know well.
Only TV attorneys, right? Like, yeah, like that's 2% of attorneys. Everybody else is just, drafting contracts and stuff. Like, your skill needs to be sitting in a room and staring at a document all day for 12 hours and editing small phrases. That's not debating, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, that's a really good example.
Yeah. So, here's, at the end of the day, you got to start having these conversations with your kids because they want to understand it and they want to know what they should do.
I think another thing is parents don't know as much as they think they know, right? And so, like that example that, I think you should be a lawyer. Well, I mean, okay, fine. But, like, students need to understand that parents are just people too, and that we're all just, muddling our way through things. And so don't take the thing your parents suggested as, oh, so I guess I'm going to do that. Right.
Right. Well, and let's face it, parents have made pretty good decisions for their kids for a really long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you said something that made me want to respond. And I think it was also that, parents don't know what are in a lot of jobs. And what people have to do is they have to focus on the activities within that role. And you hit on it. Like, for a lawyer, the activity in that role is really sitting back, pouring through information and trying to make it not mess you up, right?
Right. Yeah. Evaluating risks in documents. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not this, let's have this conversation and debate about stuff. I mean, it really is pretty kind of mundane work, right?
Absolutely.
I think it's not what I want to do. So maybe to me it's mundane, but it's that if you can focus on what activities are you going to do in that role, that's what a job is. It's a bunch of activities.
Absolutely. Right. And so think about what your daily, day-to-day is going to be. And I think another thing on that same point is that probably parents are giving advice about careers that applied 20 years ago. Right. And they don't know what the attorney job market is like or what it's going to be like in 5 years. They don't know what the best things are. And I mean, as we all know, like, in 5 years, in 6 years, the job marketplace is going to look vastly different than it does now. Everyone's job is going to involve AI in some manner, applying it, using it in your job. It's going to change the way jobs work. And so a lot of times the students they're going to have more of a picture of what kind of things they might like to do than the parents are,
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I just had this conversation with a client yesterday. She loves writing. She writes every day. And she's like, but I can't be a writer. You can't, writing isn't a job. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, let's talk about this.
So much a job.
I'm like, you could write screenplays. You could be a influencer. And I know people say that and they go, oh gosh, really, an influencer? But people are making money going out. She loves travel. She loves anything creative. I was like, you could be talking about all of these really cool things because content these days is king. And the fact that you can come up,
what people don't understand about the content creation, career now is that, first thing, it involves a whole lot of writing. Those people are not generally just off the cuff, just saying stuff. They have written it, right? They've written it and tested it out and practiced it. And that job is a job.
Yep.
That job is a lot of work every day you've got to be constantly creating, and you've got to have plans and schedules and have stuff written. So absolutely,
And
right?
by the way, they're thought leaders. I mean, they are coming up with original thoughts that other
Mhm,
people have not possibly thought of.
mhm,
And they're getting out there and they're sharing that, and people are eating it up. So,
mhm,
I was like, gosh, and you think about in the movie industry, you think about marketing, you think about all these things that we need writers. So,
mhm,
yeah, I was like, let's get this idea out of our head that you can't do something with a strength or a talent that you have,
mhm.
because there's a lot that we can unearth just to go, what else can we do? Now, talk about AI. That's a great place for parents to send their kids to go, what kind of jobs can I get if I love to write every day? And
Mhm.
it will give you a plethora
Oh
of
yeah.
different ideas, using AI for good, not evil.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I mean, that is part of the thing is, I mean, just simply, that like, that's all I'm just saying is that uh the student, like, I think when you tie this all together, parents should not be afraid to talk about trains, or afraid of stressing their teens out, but they should be afraid of stressing their teens out by declaring what their job should be. But having the talk, you've got to do it. You need to be talking about careers, but it needs to be an open-ended conversation about your skills, your interests, what jobs you like, giving information about what different kinds of careers are like, and encouraging the student to pursue, to figure out what their
And I'm
strengths
going to add one more thing, not expecting these kids to have an answer
are.
in a set amount of time.
Right.
It's like, you know what? You want them to change their ideas. You want
Yeah,
them to try things and pick the wrong things. That's an
absolutely.
important part of this. I can't tell you how many times parents are like, why haven't they figured it out yet? And I'm like, oh,
Right.
what? Oh, geez, you're still figuring it out. Why are you expecting that they're going to have it figured out? Let
Yeah. Yeah.
them talk, and they will
Absolutely.
talk themselves out of anything that's silly. I promise you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's just get the dialogue going. And that's the
Talk.
thing. And of course, I mean, my students who have worked with you to figure out their strengths, that's the real way to do it, is go and talk to a professional about different career paths and what your strengths are, and actually get it measured. We can do that now.
Yeah. We'll help you all day long. All
Absolutely. All right. It's a
right.
great topic.
Thanks.